Hey guys, I'm obviously not in class today, but I did want to pre-record a lesson for you guys so we don't fall behind. So you're going to be watching a video of me demonstrating the lesson. You're going to take notes as you follow along with me. I'll let you know where to pause and then copy the page down. When you're done watching this video, I did assign some classwork for you guys on Google Classroom, so you're going to log in and complete that. All work must be submitted through Google Classroom. It's worth 15 points, so make sure you get it done. All right, so for today, we're going to be working on solutions to quadratic equations in Vertex form. So by the end of the period, you will be able to solve a quadratic equation written in Vertex form. All right, so here's the first page. So consider the equation f of x equals x minus 1 quantity squared minus 9. Now, this equation we know is in Vertex form, but we can actually solve it. So you can see that the one below is very similar to it. All they did was they ended up adding 9 to both sides. So you can replace this with a 0, f of x set it equal to 0, and then add 9 to both sides. You'd end up getting this equation below. So we're going to pick up from here and use algebra to solve this. So what we're going to do is go ahead and solve. As we learned last time, we learned that if you have something squared, we can undo that by taking the square root on each side. The square root is going to cancel with that radical, so you're left with x minus 1 equals, and then on the right-hand side, we're solving the square root of 9, so it needs a plus or minus. That's going to be 3. It's a perfect square. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 to each side. Cancels out, you're left with x equals. Put this 1 first. So you're going to have 1 plus or minus 3. Now, remember that these are two solutions. So we can actually split this up into two answers. So the first answer is x equals 1 plus 3. The second solution is x equals 1 minus 3. Now we can actually simplify each of these. So on the left-hand side, x equals 1 plus 3 is 4. So that's one of our solutions. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So x equals negative 2 is our other solution. Now I ended up graphing this equation for you guys, the one up at the very top. I'll highlight it for you. So I ended up graphing it. And it says use the graph to show the solutions, interpret the solutions in terms of the axis of symmetry and the points on the parabola. So you can see both of our solutions are 4 and negative 2. If you look at our equation, sorry, not our equation, but if you look at our graph, you could see those roots. So you have one at negative 2, one at 4, just like we solved. So you can see both of those on there. You can see those zeros. You can see that they're the same distance away from the axis of symmetry. So remember, your axis of symmetry goes straight through the middle. You can see those are both exactly 1, 2, 3 units away. 1, 2, 3 units away. So they're that same distance away from your axis of symmetry. If you notice your vertex, so your vertex here is 1 comma negative 9. You can actually find that vertex at the beginning because it's in vertex form. Remember that vertex form is x minus h, quantity squared plus k. Your h and k are the vertex. You could see, oops, sorry, you could see from that example that the vertex is 1 comma negative 9. Okay, so you can see all of that from the equation. You're able to use that equation to solve and find those roots. All right, let's go ahead and try another example. I'm going to leave this on here, so go ahead, pause this video, and copy this down. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and continue on to another example. So here we have some more practice problems. They're in vertex form, or maybe they got shifted around a little bit, but we want to solve and give the exact solution. So let's go ahead and start off with number 1. So we have r plus 8 squared is equal to 83. I'm going to solve by taking the square root of both sides. All right, from here, our radical and the 2 cancel out. And from here, we have, bring down what you're left with. So r plus 8 is equal to plus or minus square root of 83. All right, from here, think about the square root of 83. Think about that number and see if you can simplify it. All right, so you're going to notice that 83 is actually a prime number, so we're not going to be able to simplify it. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and keep going. So you're going to leave that alone. It's prime. You can't simplify it. You can't break it down. So let's move that 8 over. Right now it's plus 8. We want to do minus 8 to both sides. I'm left with r equals, write that negative 8 first. Negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 83. Remember that this yields two solutions. So one solution is r equals negative 8 plus the square root of 83. The other solution is r equals negative 8 minus the square root of 83. And these are your two solutions. All right, let's go ahead and try another one. So for number 2, we have 17 minus d squared is equal to 55. So again, we're going to solve here. So our variable is d. We're going to solve by taking the square root, taking the square root of each side. On the left side, the radical and the 2 cancel out. So you're left with 17 minus d is equal to plus or minus the square root of 55. Now, if you think of 55, that's not a prime number, but you can try to break it down into its prime factorization. So square root of 55, I can break that down as 5 times 11. Now, 5 and 11 are both prime numbers, so I'm not able to extract any roots from here. So I can actually just leave it as a square root of 55. So I can't simplify that any further, but let's go ahead and continue. From here, again, I'm isolating d. I'm going to subtract the 17 over to the other side. I'm left with negative d equals, write that negative 17 first. You want the plus or minus to be in the middle. Plus or minus the square root of 55. All right, from here, I'm going to divide by negative 1. That's going to allow me to get rid of that negative in front of d. Divide everything by negative 1. So I'm left with d is equal to, everything changes signs. So my d is now positive, 17 is now positive, and the plus or minus in the middle actually stays as a plus or minus because that positive turned to a negative and then the negative turned to a positive. So you're still going to have a plus or minus in the middle. From here, I'm just going to write it as two separate solutions. So separate it out. I'm going to have d equals 17 plus square root of 55. And d equals 17 minus the square root of 55. And those are my solutions. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out of this page. Go ahead and copy this page down. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and continue. We have one more page. So here we're going to find the exact solutions for each one. Here's our first example. Now it's starting to get a little more complicated because there's a lot more added to our equations, right? So this is definitely in Vertex form. You can see the parentheses, quantity squared. We actually have an a value for this one, but we're going to solve. We want to find our roots. So I'm going to go ahead and before I take the square root, I'm going to get rid of this negative 2 in the front. So I'm going to divide it away because it's currently multiplying into my parentheses. So I'm going to divide it away. So that's going to cancel out. I'm left with x minus 1 quantity squared is equal to, on the right-hand side, negative 18 divided by negative 2 is positive 9. Now I'm going to go ahead and take that square root to both sides. That radical is going to cancel out with my 2. I'm left with x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus radical 9 is 3. All right, I'm going to go ahead and continue. I have really nice numbers for this one. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides, rewrite this as x equals 1 plus or minus 3. And this can be broken down as two solutions. I could have x equals 1 plus 3 and x equals 1 minus 3. You need to make sure you have both of those. From there, you're going to simplify. For my first solution, I have x equals 4. And for my second solution, I have x equals negative 2. And those are my two solutions. Those are my two roots. All right, let's go ahead and try the last one. Let me actually move this out of the way. There we go. Oops. And then I'll draw a little arrow. All right, down at the bottom, again, we have an a value this time. So we can't just take the square root yet. We have to get rid of that a value. This time it's a negative 1/2. Now, a way that you can get rid of a fraction is multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 1, but I'm also going to multiply by a negative to cancel out with the negative that's already there. If I do it to one side, I have to do that to the other side. All right, so let's go ahead and multiply this entire fraction and negative cancel out. I'm left with x plus 8 squared is equal to, and then multiply that on the right-hand side. Now the over 1 doesn't bother us because that's just going to give us a whole number. Negative times a negative is a positive, and then 32 times 2 is 64. All right, from here, we have nice numbers. So let's go ahead and get rid of that 2 by taking the square root of each side. Radical and the squared cancel out. You're left with, my pencil's gone. Ah, sorry. Here we go. Okay, so my pencil's back. I'm left with x plus 8 is equal to the square root of 64. It's plus or minus 8. All right, I'm going to get rid of that 8, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 8. Sorry. What's happening? My iPad is possessed. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 8 to both sides. Rewrite it. So the 8's cancel out, and I'm left with x equals, write that negative 8 first. You want your plus or minus in the middle. So negative 8 plus or minus 8. All right, so this is what I'm left with. I need to make sure I split it up into two solutions. X equals negative 8 plus 8, and x equals negative 8 minus 8. So you're going to have, again, one with a plus, one with a minus. Go ahead and simplify those. X equals negative 8 plus 8 is 0. And then on the right, x equals negative 8 minus 8 is negative 16. So those are my two solutions. Notice that for each of these, I have two solutions. So you do have some classwork. Actually, let me go back here. Go ahead and pause this video and copy these examples down. All right, so talking about classwork, so I did upload classwork there. It's not on Edulastic this time, it's on Google Classroom. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at the PDF that I attached. You're not doing this on the computer, you're doing this on a separate sheet of paper. You're gonna take a picture of all your work and you're gonna upload it to Google Classroom. Make sure that all of your work is shown for full credit. Whatever you do not finish in class today is due for homework by Sunday, the 28th at 11:59 p.m. So make sure you get that done. That way you have no homework. And then I will see you guys next time. Let me know through email or remind if you have any questions. Bye.